Remorse for what? You people have done everything in the world to me. Doesn't that give me the equal right? These are the chilling words of serial killer Charles Manson, found on QuoteSummit.com. These words followed an interview with a reporter when asking him the question, do you regret or have any feelings of remorse towards what you have done to these innocent people by taking their lives? It's obvious that after all this time, this man still has no remorse for everything that he has done and the lives he has taken. A topic like this has a big interest to me personally. It's something that I feel I do not fully understand, but it keeps my mind working. It puts me in a situation where I don't understand something, and I want to understand how somebody can go on and feel no remorse, no regret for taking the lives of many innocent people. Because of the fact that there are actually people like Charles Manson in the world today, I believe that it's important for individuals like myself and people my age and people out in the world, I believe it's important for them to know what he went through as a child, his family life, his so-called followers, which he later deemed his family, and his prison stays and situations today. According to a study written by Rosenberg, it's on About.com. It's a biography page about Charles Manson. I was able to learn that he was born on November 12, 1934, to a 16-year-old alcoholic mother named Catherine Maddox. The sad fact that he was born to a mother who wasn't even of a legal age to drink alcohol, and she was already an alcoholic, if that's not bad enough, he never knew his father. He never met him, never saw him, never heard anything about him. So that makes it safe to assume that he was not a good influence and not a good man. When Charles was just 5 years old, his mother was arrested for armed robbery. And something that really hits home to me is another thing I cannot understand is his mom. Most parents would never suggest that their kid be put in foster care if nothing else could happen to them. But that's what his mother, Catherine, did. Instead of suggesting for him to go somewhere else or being concerned when she went to prison, she requested for him to be put in the foster system. This wasn't granted for her. Charles actually went on to be transferred to Indiana from Ohio, and he attended an all-boys school. It didn't take long before Charles began to follow in his mother's footsteps. He began to be defiant and commit crimes of his own. It was at the age of 12 where Charles committed his first known crime of burglary from a grocery store. He was caught and sent to a juvenile detention center where he escaped. He then commits 2 armed robberies before he is found and sent to another all-boys disciplinary school in the state of Indiana. Over the course of 3 years, while attending this school, Charles has managed to escape the school 18 times. Charles committed so many crimes that Charles committed so many crimes that before the age of 18, he had committed approximately 20 crimes. And the sad thing is that the crimes did not stop there. That was just the beginning. Even though Manson was in prison more than he was out, he still somehow managed to marry 2 women and have 2 children. He was first, according to Charles Manson's biography on the biographychannel.com, his first marriage was in 1955 to a woman named Rosalie Willis. This marriage only lasted about 3 years, and the two had a child together, and his name was Charles Manson Jr. Following the divorce, which was filed by Rosalie, Manson married 19-year-old Leona Stevens less than 2 years later. Like his first marriage, the couple had a son, and ironically, his name was Charles Luther. This marriage, too, only lasted about 3 years until Charles was sent to prison in California to serve out a 10-year sentence. This is something that clicked in my mind first, where it could have went wrong with him. If you see, he's been married 2 times, each marriage lasting barely 3 years and having a son out of it. So I see this process of he seems to rope people in, and then maybe that's when his true self begins to emerge, and these people see that he is not the man they once thought, and he is not capable of good things. After Charles was ordered back to prison in California for his 10-year sentence, he was shortly after that moved to Washington to a federal penitentiary. This is where prison psychiatrists were able to say that after further evaluation of Manson, that he had deep-seated personality issues. So this is where you maybe start to see that with his earlier stages, he maybe is able to switch how he acts towards people in order to manipulate them. That's how I see it, in a sense, anyway. It is also at that prison where Manson started to become obsessed with music. He met a man named Alvin Karpis, who taught him all about the steel guitar, helped him with music and his own writing. And this is also the time that the Beatles were very popular. The Beatles became his sense of therapy, in a way, and music is something that began to take up all his time, songwriting, playing, just listening with his friend Alvin. And this was something that I think that he has said has helped him pass his 10-year sentence in prison before being released. In March of 1967 was his release date, and this is something that I find very odd. Instead of being excited to be out of prison and start your life over, because he's still a young man, Charles Manson asked if he could remain in prison. But unfortunately for him, and unfortunately for his potential victims, he was released. In the summer of 1968, Charles Manson and his followers, which later declared themselves his family, all moved to Spahn Ranch in California. This is also around the time that the Beatles released their hit and new album, including the song Helter Skelter. Soon after moving to the Spahn Ranch, Manson somehow, he would manipulate people. This is where his personality issues began. An example of it begins to arise. He was able to manipulate young women and men to join his following. These people that were young, middle class, perfectly normal people joined him and later helped him in these awful crimes. They helped him commit 7 murders throughout the time. According to Charles Manson's webpage, accessed on July 5, 2012, now it's time for Helter Skelter. These are the daunting words of Charles Manson that he used on August 8, 1969, when he tells 4 members of his family to gather, his family or his followers, to gather clean clothes and knives. They drove up to a house that Manson had visited after getting out of prison. He was looking for somebody to help him to publish his songs that he had written, but found it was being rented to actress Sharon Tate, and she was very rude and didn't give him the chance to explain himself, so this might have been something that stuck in his mind, and he had this resentment towards her. According to Bogosky and Gentry, published in their book Helter Skelter, the true story of the Manson murders, Sharon Tate and her 4 house guests were all brutally murdered. 4 of the victims, including Sharon Tate, who was pregnant at the time, were stabbed a total of 102 times, and 1 was shot numerous times. The 4 family members returned back to the ranch, where Manson criticizes them for their dirty work and for making a mess. However, that doesn't stop them. From later that night, they drove around the city and the town looking for their next potential victims. Less than 2 days later, Lino and Rosemarie LaBianca are their next targets. The morning of August 10th is when Lino and Rosemarie are killed and then later found by their own children. As if it's not bad enough to find your parents brutally murdered, Manson and his family members or followers, they wrote Helter Skelter and pigs on the wall in the LaBianca's blood. This is something that I could never imagine walking into. Even though Charles played a major role in these murders, murdering 7 innocent people, he reports that he never killed anyone, nor did he tell his family or followers to do so. They did it all on their own. Eventually, Charles Manson and his family or followers were caught. In an ABC News article accessed on July 5, 2012, it states that they were all given the death sentence in 1972. But later on, California abolished capital punishment, so the death sentences were changed to life sentences. Manson and his family always have the possibility of parole. However, they have all been denied during their hearings. That includes Manson, who up until April of 2012 had 11 denied parole attempts. April marked his 12th. According to Charles Manson Denied Parole, an ABC article, and author and interviewer Netter, she went on to explain his parole attempts and how every time he had been denied. Even though it's highly unlikely that Charles Manson and his followers will be released from prison on parole, there's still that little bit of doubt stuck in everybody's head that they can't help to think about. I believe it's very important for people to be aware of the prison situation that Charles Manson and his followers are in, along with the chance that they could possibly be paroled. Even though Manson is 77 years old and probably isn't as harmful as he used to be, it still unsettles me that this could be considered. Somebody with no remorse for what he's done and these brutal murders, and who was a ringleader of 5 other people, how could it even be a thought in anybody's mind that he can be free? I believe that because of his personality issues, it's not something I fully understand, but it is important to look at somebody's childhood, especially somebody who's troubled, to look at their childhood, look at their family, and in Charles Manson's case, his followers, which later he deemed his family, and his prison sentences. These are something that are able to make something that is hard to relate to make it, put it a little bit more into perspective, how these issues, if they're troubled like his, can lead him to become the serial killer that he was. So for you people who are filled with fear that I might someday be released, breathe easy. I don't see it happening. As said by Charles Manson, according to Great Quotes website, looked on July 5th, 2012.